Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Gaur Premanandi. Jai Vishupad Paramahamsa, Pri Rajgacha Stotra Satta, Sri Srimad His Divine Grace, Shirabai Charanaravind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki, Skandibiti, Founder Charya Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki, Samavata Bhakti Vrind ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Rantaraj Bhagavatam ki, Janita Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Taksurinmiritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Sri Vesakanvitam Sya. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Deshabhanu Stuti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayan. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayesha Badrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil. And loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Sloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasthaya Namahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It's compiled by the incarnation of God, as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Sarabhyai Namaha Om Sarabhyai Namaha Om Sarabhyai Namaha Mukam Karoti Vacharam Pangum Nangayate Girim Yatkripat Maham Sri Gurum Dinataranam Yatkripat Maham Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. Continuing from Canto 1, Chapter 5, Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam, and today we are reading text 39. Imam Sva Nigamam Brahman Avetya Mad Anustitam Adan Me Jnanam Aishvaryam Swasmin Bhavam Cha Kesavaha
Kesavaha
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Avidya Mad Anustitam
Avidyamadanishtitam
Adan Me Jnanam Aishvaryam
Adanme Jnanamaishvaryam
Swasmin Bhavam Sakesavaha
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshava
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Avidya Mad Anustitam
Avidyamadanishtitam
Adanme Jnanam Aishvaryam
Adanme Jnanamaishvaryam
Swasmin Bhavam Chakesavaha
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshava
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Avidya Mad Anustitam
Avidyamadanishtitam
Adanme Jnanam Aishvaryam
Adanme Jnanamaishvaryam
Swasmin Bhavam Chakesavaha
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshava Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Vetyamadanishtitam
Avidyamadanishtitam
Adanme Jnanamaishvaryam
Adanme
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshavaha
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshavam
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Avityamad Anustitam
Avidyamadanishtitam
Adanme Jnanamaishvaryam
Adanme Jnanamaishvaryam
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshava
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshava
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Avityamad Anustitam
Avidyamadanishtitam
Adanme Jnanam Aishvaryam
Adanme Jnanamaishvaryam
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshavaha
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshava
Imam Das Swanigamam
Swanigamam
confidential knowledge
confidential knowledge
of the Vedas
of the Vedas
in respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
respect to the Supreme Personality of God.
Brahman,
Brahman,
O Brahmana,
O Brahman,
Vyasadeva,
Vyasadeva,
Avidya,
Avidya,
knowing it well,
knowing well,
but
not
by me,
by me,
Anustitam,
Anushtitam,
executed,
executed,
Adat,
Adat,
bestowed upon me,
bestowed upon
me,
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 Jnanam,
Jnanam,
transcendental knowledge,
transcendental knowledge,
Aishvaryam,
Aishwaryam,
opulence,
opulence,
Swasmin,
Swasmin,
personal,
personal,
Bhavam,
Bhavam,
intimate affection and love, Cha,
Cha,
and
and
Keshavaha,
Keshavaha.
Lord Krishna. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. O Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord of Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, and then with his intimate loving service. Kindly repeat after me. O Brahmana,
O Brahmana,
thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna,
that way the Supreme Krishna,
thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna,
Thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna
I was endowed first
I was endowed
with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord,
with the transcendental knowledge of Lord
as inculcated
as inculcated
in the confidential
in the confidential
parts of the Vedas,
parts,
then with the spiritual opulences,
then with the spiritual utterances,
and then with his intimate loving service.
and then with his infinite love.
Purport. Communion. Communion with the Lord by transmission of the transcendental sound is non different from the whole Spirit, Lord Sri Krishna. It is a completely perfect method for approaching the Lord. By such a pure contact with the Lord, without offense of material conceptions, numbering 10, the devotee can rise above the material plane to understand the inner meaning of the Vedic literatures, including the Lord's existence in the transcendental realm. The Lord reveals his identity gradually to one who has unflinching faith both in the spiritual master and in the Lord. After this, the devotee is endowed with mystic opulences, which are 8 in number. And above all, the devotee is accepted in the confidential entourage of the Lord and is entrusted with specific service of the Lord through the agency of the spiritual master. A pure devotee is more interested in serving the Lord than in showing an exhibition of the mystic powers dormant in him. Sri Narada has explained all these from his personal experience, and one can obtain all the facilities which Sri Narada obtained by perfecting the chanting process of the sound representation of the Lord. There is no bar for chanting this transcendental sound by anyone, provided it is received through Narada's representative coming down by the chain of disciplic succession or the parampara system. Translation. Again, O Brahmana, thus the Supreme Lord Krishna, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, and then with his intimate loving service. Both in the translation and the purport, there is specific process being explained. This is Narada Muni, of course, speaking to Vyasadeva and telling that first I received transcendental knowledge. So we know that Narada, as a young boy, was hearing every day these discussions or discourses that was taking place where he was staying with these saintly persons. And then the text is mentioning that then he was endowed with spiritual opulences. So maybe we can discuss a little bit, what does that mean, spiritual opulences? And thirdly, and then with the intimate loving service of the Lord, which in the text is translated as swasmin bhavam, personal, intimate affection and love. personal, intimate affection that is described, of course, by Srila Rupa Goswami, this level of bhakti, bhava bhakti. Bhava bhakti is where one begins to actually show symptoms of um, of affection and love to Krishna, mm, which of course culminates in prema, which is pure love of Krishna. Mm. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions how um, this path or this process is open or available to everyone. Anyone who is similar to Narada Muni in a very simple and humble way, fortunate to actually get the association of such Bhaktivedantas, those who are practicing Krishna consciousness, who have themselves received this knowledge from a bona fide authority, then here it mentions about, spiritual opulences. What are spiritual opulences? What is actually being referred to here by spiritual opulences? Prabhupada doesn't elaborate much in the purport. What he does say is that a devotee is more interested in serving the Lord than in showing an exhibition of the mystic powers dormant within him. Actually, all of us, all living entities, we are full of these opulences. That is the nature of the spirit soul. Krishna has, of course, in full all of these opulences, and those are nicely delineated actually by the Goswamis. The Goswamis explain how Krishna, he's the only one who possesses in full all of the opulences, whereas the Vishnu Tattvas, they possess 96% of the opulences. Lord Shiva possesses 84%, and the living entity possesses something like 78%. Lord Brahma, he is that personality who has these opulences developed to the maximum. So the spiritual opulences are all of the different transcendental qualities that develop, that manifest gradually as one actually becomes a devotee, becomes purified. But as Prabhupada explains here, actually, a devotee's main focus and main interest is to actually be engaged in service. In one lecture, actually given part of the Nectar of Devotion series that Prabhupada gave in Vrindavan in 1972, he mentions that if there's a need to show opulence, to show mystic power, then the devotee is confident that the Lord will do the needful. In other words, we should not be uh, overly concerned or obsessed in developing mystic powers. Although a devotee is said to actually, by his uh, developing, by his reinstating himself in his original transcendental position, mm, the word is, they are dormant, right? Prabhupada uses the word. Mm, yeah. Mystic power is dormant in devotees. Mm. And in the purport, Prabhupada is concluding that uh, our our desire, our interest should simply to be following in the footsteps of personalities like Narada Muni. So actually, we have examples of personalities in the history who have performed very extraordinary activities, who were especially empowered. Um, but a devotee um, leaves it up to the Lord. He's simply interested, a devotee is simply interested in making himself available for whatever service the Lord may require him to do. Um, and what is what we call more of the essence. Essence means what is the most uh, important aspect is simply to uh, um, to nicely engage in seva, just like Narada Muni did as a young boy. He heard, he had a, he was well disposed. He had a good, uh, um, he had a good what we call service attitude. We were discussing the importance of service attitude. He was a simple boy, uh, very submissive, um, didn't talk too much, and he heard attentively the good instructions given by those saintly persons, and by engaging in their service, they blessed him. The Lord blesses those devotees and even empowers those devotees when the Lord becomes satisfied by their service. So these are the three aspects that are mentioned here. First one is we need to regularly hear transcendental knowledge. Um, that's what we recite every day. Nasta prayasha badrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Nityam. And by receiving daily, regularly, this transcendental knowledge, then we put that into practice by engaging in seva, in service. And by that process, naturally the purification will take place and different opulences, different qualities. Opulence can mean mystic opulence, and Krishna uh, can show mystic opulences through his devotees at times. But as Prabhupada mentions, they are lying dormant in a devotee, and a devotee is not really interested in showing such kind of mystic opulence. Those mystic opulences are in those devotees who are on that purified level. And then the third aspect, which is mentioned here, this gradually should lead us to developing a natural, loving relationship with Krishna. But actually, we should know that we cannot develop a loving relationship with Krishna unless we first learn to love, or to develop rather, a loving relationship with Krishna's devotees. Uh, um, and that is why the spiritual master actually is there to give us opportunity to engage and develop a personal relationship. The Vaishnavas, not only the spiritual master, all Vaishnavas with whom we come in contact, we are getting every day opportunity to interact and to associate with devotees. So it's a question of us, all of us individually, to take advantage and establish such kind of rapport or relationship in the mood of service, isn't it? Prabhupada one time was explaining the word Prabhu. We call everyone Prabhu, but we don't generally understand the full meaning of Prabhu. Prabhu means you are my master. Means I can learn something from this 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 devotee, this Prabhu. Um, so the verse again. O Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, as indicated in the confidential parts of the Vedas. What are the confidential parts of the Vedas? What should we understand by confidential parts of the Vedas? Actually, Bhagavad Gita is confidential parts. It is Guyam. It is all those references in the Vedas. That's what our Goswamis of Vrindavan especially were deputed to do, actually. The confidential parts of the Vedas are those which deal with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, isn't it? Krishna is actually hidden. Bhakti is hidden. The holy name is hidden. Like you don't find the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as one of the mantras of the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? We don't find the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as one of the mantras in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And many people, they say, well, why you speak of Radharani? Radharani is not there in the Bhagavatam. And why you speak of Lord Chaitanya as an incarnation? He's not listed as incarnation. Which is all true, actually, to some extent. But actually, Lord Chaitanya is referred to as confidential, covered incarnation. And for those who have the eyes to see, then there is reference of Srimati Radharani also. So the Vedic knowledge in the Vedic literatures is of different level. That's why there is Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Upasana Kanda. And that's why most people who by themselves read Shastra, they cannot understand. Vedeshu Dolabham. To read people get confused. That's the point Prabhupada is making at the end of the purport. Unless one follows authorities like Narada Muni, then one will not be able to achieve the uh, the level that Narada Muni attained. So that's how Prabhupada concludes. There's no bar for chanting this transcendental sound by anyone, provided it is received through Narada's representative coming down by the chain of disciplic succession or the parampara system. Of course, I didn't speak about this, but Prabhupada is especially referring also to the all of this is possible through the transcendental um, sound vibration, the transcendental chanting of the holy name. Yeah. And then Narada Muni will continue in the verses to come and directly be instructing to his disciples, Srila Vyasadeva, that this is what actually is needed, that people be introduced to uh, descriptions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So any thoughts or questions on this? Yes.
I would like to ask you to help me to put the previous verse into context of maybe this verse, because that was a little bit missed for me, that how
The
Narada
previous,
Muni glorified the Supreme Person with these four aspects. And only that one verse is the glorification, no explanation why these four aspects we should put together. And I don't remember too much Prabhupada mentioned sometimes, but not really put into our practice.
you're referring to like the expansions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Vasudeva,
yeah, Aniruddha,
Arjuna, Arinda, Shankara mentioned,
yeah.
but not easy to
Conceive,
yeah,
or,
or apply it into my life.
right.
I should pray every day like that, or and consider what their function in my spiritual life.
I remember reading, it's not something that is very widely stressed, but it is referred to in a few places. Uh, and I would have to read again those references to actually find. But there is some um, some purpose and some meaning. Um, that uh,
It is his personal deity, how he worshipped his personal deity, Narada Muni.
mm,
It is his mood of worship.
I've not read that, so I can't really say. I guess if one would read the various references, some of which might be found also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, um, then um, we could then understand why Narada Muni particularly is making reference. But I can't say actually.
Maybe the teaching for Sanatana Goswami, the opulences of the Lord.
Well, all of the Goswamis had a similar realization and understanding. They might have been more elaborately explained by, just like Srila Jiva Goswami is especially known for having presented and elaborated on the subject matter of tattva. Others might have more elaborately explained or discussed this aspect of the four expansions. I can't say offhand. Yeah.
Maharaj, you mentioned in the beginning of the purport that Prabhupada says that everyone could apply this process. And then the next sentence is told, who is very simple like Narada, who is, that means I'm not so simple like Narada, that means I'm disclosed from this because I have no such qualities as Narada as a little boy. It looks like that, or I could take like that.
Well, the idea is that even if one doesn't have those qualities that Narada had, if he at least applies the principle of associating with such personalities, hearing from such personalities, then the purification will take place. Some of these qualities will come. As we have read, those qualities were already there in Narada, which facilitated that within a short time he became that great exalted personality.
So first we have to want to become like Narada at that present stage, and then we can go further.
Yes, we should want to follow in his footsteps, which means spending time with saintly persons, hearing from Shastra, engaging in their service, and then in due course of time, the needed purification will take place, and then we'll be able to develop some of the qualities that Narada Muni already had that we may not have right now. But all the qualities that were there in Narada and all the qualities that are there in liberated souls are potentially within every living entity, isn't it? Yeah. So these become awakened as we apply more and more the practices of such personalities like Narada, especially in the matter of hearing, in the matter of chanting, and the matter of serving. Yeah. Yeah. So that is repeated by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. The process is open for everyone, and the more we apply that process, then gradually that purification will take place. Yeah. Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada.